Let's now see how long it will take us if we take our two align properties that we just learned and apply them to some layout, which will result in a AAA blockbuster game layout without a doubt. So now we have this kind of layout. We have a canvas with a nice background image, and we just threw a couple of elements on this canvas. Now, basically, they are aligned in a couple of rows, and you see it's a total mess. We don't have any layout so far yet. Basically, it looks like total garbage so far, obviously, because there's basically no structure. The only structure is that those are all rows. So let's just see what we can do. Now, for the first row, what I would like to do is to distribute the elements to the left and the right, basically. So I'm taking the top bar. The top bar has a row orientation. So that means when I want to distribute them left and right, I have to look at the justify content property. And now let's just go through them. I could center them. I could all put them to the left. But the thing that I want is to get as much space in between as I can. And sure enough, that already looks much better. Now, also for those icons on the right here, they are too close together. I want to give them some space. In order to do that, I have to do one other thing than setting the align elements. I will give this whole container a little bit some width. Oh, I think I wanted to give it 200 pixels of width. And now I have the space to actually use justify content because this is also obviously set to a row direction. And now to give them some space, I will also use the space between property, and voila, they look much better. Now, they're a little bit too fat, but I'm sorry, I didn't have the time to invest hours in the right icons. Okay, so let's go to the next row. The next row, this will be our big title of our game, which is some kind of clone of SimCity probably, or City Skylines. So a title obviously has to be in the center. So again, we have a row. Let's look at the justify content property and let's center it. Okay, much better. Now, next row. We have some information about what we already achieved in our game. How many buildings we built, how many streets we have, stuff like that. Now, this might be some entry screen on your game, so you get some kind of statistics to encourage you to keep playing or something like that. Okay, now we want to distribute them evenly on this row, but we also want to leave some space around, so we go to the space around setting, and just with this one setting, this happens. Like there is nothing, there is no setup at all behind the scenes. Those are just all the same elements with two text labels, and just with choosing this space around setting, we get this layout. And the last thing that we have is this button. Now, this button, I don't like it to be stretched, stretching the whole screen, the whole width. Now, we know why that happens, and that's because this button is living in a element that is having a column orientation, and that means its cross axis is the horizontal axis, and by default it can stretch across the whole cross axis of the parent. So in order to prevent that, I'm not choosing the button, I'm choosing the parent of the button, and I'm removing this stretch property. What I rather want is to have it centered, and sure enough, voila, the button is in the middle. Now, that's almost perfect, except that they are kind of stuck to the top of this layout. And now look what we can do. Again, we take the whole container and we just set one single property. Now the whole container has its main axis vertical, so that's where we want to distribute our elements. And again, we choose the space around property, and that's what we end up with. Now, those were a couple of minutes, and sure enough, that is a game that you could probably not sell yet, but I think it's a really good start, right? I mean, without my talking, you could do this in probably 2 minutes, and you have some kind of starting point for your game UI that you could now play around with, tweak, make some other screens, stuff like that. But to make some kind of mock-up like this, we needed 2 or 3 minutes. That's it. So I think that's pretty convenient and pretty nice. But it's obviously also no rocket science. So that was a practical example of how to use align items and justify content. I hope you found that useful. Play around with your own mockups. We are going to move on to the next flex properties.